Every weekend, um, thousands of people spend just thousands of dollars building these structures in their backyards that are, honestly, they are mathematically doomed to collapse before the very first nail is even hammered.
Yeah, it really is a massive issue.
Right. They head to the hardware store on a Saturday morning, probably fueled by coffee and this sudden burst of spontaneous creativity, and they're just completely convinced they can, figure it out as they go.
Oh, absolutely.
But in the world of backyard construction, that blank canvas approach, it isn't freeing. It is basically a one-way ticket to structural failure, compounding expenses, and just absolute frustration.
It is the classic trap, really. I mean, we treat building a physical structure like we're putting together a basic bookshelf from a flat box.
Yeah, like it's just snapping pieces together.
Exactly. But a shed is exposed to the elements, to gravity and fluid dynamics. And if you don't account for those unseen forces before you start cutting your lumber, the environment will eventually tear down whatever you build.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a truly fascinating article today titled Ryan's Woodshed Plans versus Guesswork: Why Detailed Plans Matter More Than You Think.
It is a great read.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to uncover the hidden science of backyard construction. We are looking at the physics, the mechanics, and, honestly, the psychology behind why winging a DIY project is just a terrible idea.
It really is.
And we'll see exactly how applying methodical, rigorous planning unlocks professional-level success.
Because we aren't just talking about, measuring a few 2x4s here.
Right.
This conversation really gets into the hidden engineering that keeps everyday structure standing upright. And maybe more importantly, why the human brain is so incredibly eager to skip the most important part of the entire process.
Okay, let's unpack this because it is just so incredibly tempting to grab some wood and start hammering.
Oh, for sure.
You look at your backyard, you realize you desperately need a place for the rakes and the mower.
Yeah, you've got a free weekend.
Exactly. You have a free weekend and you just want to make it happen. So before we look at how to build correctly, I feel like we have to understand this psychological trap. Why do so many capable people skip formal plans in the first place?
Well, it really comes down to a false economy.
A false economy.
Yeah. Skipping formal plans gives you this illusion of upfront savings.
Okay. I can see that.
Right, because you think you are saving money by not purchasing a blueprint. And you feel like you're saving time by, bypassing the drafting phase and getting straight to the action.
Because planning feels like homework.
Exactly. You have a weekend to kill, and sitting down with a grid and a ruler just feels like tedious homework.
But wait, I look at the structures we're talking about, and a shed is essentially just a box, right?
Well,
I genuinely have to push back here on the logic a bit. It's just 4 walls and a roof. If I skip buying plans and I just sketch the dimensions out on a napkin at the coffee shop, aren't I actually saving cash?
it seems that way, yeah.
It's not a skyscraper we're building. If a wall is, say, an inch too long, can't I just sort of trim it later?
What's fascinating here is how the geometry of construction actively punishes that exact mindset.
Really? Punishes it?
Oh, severely. A shed is not just a static box. It is a highly interconnected system. So let's look at the compounding nature of errors.
Okay, lay it on me.
Think of the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh, classic example.
Right. So a millimeter of lean at the soil level turns into this massive 15-foot tilt by the time you reach the top of the tower.
Wow, yeah, when you put it like that.
The exact same mathematical principle applies to your backyard shed. If your napkin sketch results in a foundation that is out of square by just, and I mean just a quarter of an inch, that slight mismeasurement physically compounds as you build upward.
Wait, so a quarter inch at the base doesn't just stay a quarter inch higher up?
Far from it. By the time you get to the roof line, that quarter-inch variance has massively amplified.
Oh, I see.
Suddenly, your wall plates just don't meet. The wooden trusses for your roof physically won't connect because the geometry is entirely skewed.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And that custom door frame you built? It's now a parallelogram instead of a rectangle.
Which means your door flat out won't shut.
Exactly. You aren't saving money by skipping the plan. What you're actually doing is buying future repair bills, because you will inevitably have to tear down half a wall to fix a mistake you made on day one.
That paints a painfully clear picture. The mistake literally multiplies with every single piece of wood you add.
Exactly. It cascades.
Which means we really need to look at the very first steps of construction, right? Because all of this geometry relies on basic cause and effect. A perfectly square wall is totally useless if the ground beneath it is just sinking into the mud.
Precisely. Design foresight and the foundation. This is where the physical reality of the whole project actually begins.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the sources point out this classic DIY nightmare. And it's so funny, but also tragic.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Right. You spend 3 weeks building this beautiful, sturdy shed. You step back, wipe the sweat off your brow, you go to put your tools away, and you realize your riding lawnmower is literally 2 inches wider than the door you framed.
It happens all the time.
Or you didn't plan for any natural light, so the inside is just a pitch-black cave, and you can't even see the tools you're trying to find.
That's the lack of foresight in action. People fail to ask the functional questions up front.
Like what kind of questions?
Like, will you add heavy shelving later? Are you storing large equipment that requires a built-in ramp?
Right, you can't just lift a heavy mower up a step.
Exactly. Or will the roof need to handle your specific local weather conditions, like, heavy snowfall? A meticulously planned layout isn't just about making it look nice. It actually dictates structural balance, internal airflow, and basic accessibility.
And all of that design, no matter how good it is, rests on the foundation.
The most critical part.
The sources call it the invisible anchor. And they list several types, like concrete slabs, gravel bases, skid foundations, and pier foundations.
Yep, those are the main ones.
But they don't really explain how they actually work. Like, if I am building a shed this weekend, how do I know which one to pick? What actually is a skid foundation versus, say, a pier foundation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the type of foundation you choose is dictated almost entirely by your soil and your local climate.
Okay, so it's not just about budget.
Not at all. A skid foundation is essentially building the shed on top of heavy, treated wooden beams, the skids.
Oh, like runners on a sled.
Exactly like that. They sit directly on the ground or on a prepared gravel bed. It distributes the weight evenly and allows the shed to be slightly mobile if needed. It's really great for smaller structures as long as you're on relatively flat, stable ground.
And what if the ground isn't stable? What if you live somewhere with crazy weather?
That is exactly where you have to look at pier foundations. In areas with cold winters, the soil goes through a brutal freeze-thaw cycle.
Right, freezing temperatures.
As moisture in the ground freezes, it naturally expands, and that expansion actually pushes the soil upward. This is known in construction as frost heave.
Frost heave. Okay, so if your shed is just sitting on the dirt.
If it's just on dirt, that expansion will violently lift one corner of your shed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it'll end up cracking your framing and literally shattering your windows from the pressure.
That is insane. So how does a pier foundation fix that?
A pier foundation solves it by sinking concrete posts deep into the ground, completely below the frost line. That way, the expanding surface soil just slides up and down the posts and doesn't affect the actual structure at all.
Wow, so the soil is literally trying to rip the shed apart from underneath.
It is a constant slow-motion attack from nature. And then, of course, you have concrete slabs, which are these massive poured concrete pads.
Those sound expensive.
They are very expensive, and they're permanent. But they are absolutely required if you are building, say, a heavy workshop or parking a vehicle inside, or if you're dealing with highly unstable surface soil.
That makes sense.
Detailed plans don't just tell you to build a foundation. They calculate the weight of the intended structure and mandate the specific foundation required to survive your local environment.
Okay, so the foundation is locked in. We have a solid, mathematically sound base. Now the skeleton goes up.
The framing.
Right, we are moving into framing and roofing, and this is where the base has to transfer the weight of the structure while also, fighting off gravity and the weather.
It's a lot of work for a skeleton.
It really is. But looking through the framing diagrams in these plans, the sheer amount of lumber required seems like total overkill.
It does look like a lot of wood.
Are these plans maybe just over-engineered to sell more materials? Like, why are there so many vertical boards, and what on earth is a header?
I get that a lot. It looks like overkill right up until you understand how gravity actually travels through a building.
Okay, explain that.
Well, a shed isn't just holding itself up. It's managing active loads. So let's talk about the header you just mentioned.
Yeah, what is that?
A header is a heavy, reinforced structural bridge that sits horizontally right above a door or a window frame.
Why do I need a bridge over my door? I'm just walking through it.
Because gravity is constantly pushing down on your roof. That immense weight travels from the roof into the walls and straight down the vertical studs into the foundation.
Okay, following so far.
When you cut a massive hole in that wall to make a doorway, you remove all that vertical support.
Oh, right.
So the weight of the roof is now pushing directly down on empty space. Without a properly sized header to catch that weight and safely redirect it down the sides of the doorframe, the roof will literally just slowly crush the doorframe.
Wow.
3 years later, your shed door suddenly gets stuck and won't open, and you have no idea why. That's why.
Ah, so it's not just extra wood for the sake of it. It's literally a redirect for gravity.
Exactly that. And the same logic goes for stud spacing. Good plans usually dictate placing vertical wall studs exactly 16 inches apart.
16 inches. Why that specific number?
It isn't an arbitrary number. It is an industry standard designed to perfectly align with 4-foot by 8-foot sheet goods, like plywood siding or drywall panels.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the edges of the plywood will land perfectly in the center of a stud, ensuring maximum structural rigidity. If you just guess the spacing, your siding won't have anything solid to attach to at the seams.
I totally get the framing part now. The skeleton has to handle the downward force of gravity. But I have to admit, genuine confusion when it comes to the roof.
The roof is tricky for a lot of people.
Right. I mean, I understand pitching it at an angle so water rolls off.
Yeah.
But the sources talk about the roof fighting off invisible forces.
They do.
And to me, I'm thinking, it's just angled wood with some shingles. What forces are attacking the roof other than rain?
Wind uplift is arguably the most destructive and misunderstood force in backyard construction.
Wind uplift.
Yes, wind doesn't just push horizontally against the broad side of your shed. When wind hits the wall and travels up and over the pitched roof, it actually creates aerodynamic lift.
Like an airplane wing?
The exact same principle. Fast-moving air travels over the top of the roof, creating an area of really low pressure above it, while the higher pressure inside the closed shed actively pushes up.
That is wild.
During a severe storm, the wind is literally trying to suck the roof right off the building.
Oh my gosh.
If you just nailed some angled wood together without calculating the pitch or, using proper metal hurricane ties at the framing joints, the entire roof can detach and become a massive flying hazard in your neighborhood.
That is terrifying. It's literal aerodynamic lift on a garden shed.
Nature doesn't care if it's a shed or a plane. Physics is physics.
And even if the roof stays on, you still have to deal with water. I was reading the section on weatherproofing, and I have to admit, I still don't get why certain features are so crucial.
Which ones?
Well, the plans emphasize something called extended eaves. But isn't the exterior siding already waterproof? Why do I need the roof to hang way over the edge?
Well, siding is water resistant, but it is definitely not impervious to constant degrading exposure. Think of extended eaves or roof overhangs as a permanent umbrella for your walls.
An umbrella, okay.
Right. Without them, every single time it rains, sheets of water run directly down the face of your siding. It seeps into the window frames, erodes the paint, and finds these tiny, microscopic gaps in the wood.
And I imagine the sun doesn't help either.
Not at all. UV rays from the sun bake the siding, drying out all the sealants. Extended eaves cast a shadow and literally throw the rainwater away from the walls and away from the foundation.
Which brings up another weatherproofing point that totally caught me off guard. Ventilation.
Yes.
My instinct would be to seal the shed up as tight as humanly possible, really. Just keep the weather out completely. But the plans mandate air circulation. Why in the world would I want outside air getting into my perfectly weatherproof shed?
Because of condensation?
Condensation.
Yeah. If you seal a structure perfectly tight, you actually trap moisture inside. The ground underneath the shed naturally releases moisture, and normal temperature fluctuations between day and night cause condensation to form all over the interior walls and the ceiling.
Oh, right, like a cold glass of water on a hot day.
Exactly. And without ventilation to cycle that humid air out, your beautifully sealed shed simply becomes a greenhouse for black mold.
Yikes.
The trapped moisture will literally rot your expensive structural framing from the inside out.
So the extended eaves keep the rain off the outside, and the ventilation stops the invisible rain from forming on the inside.
You are balancing microclimates. And honestly, it really highlights why winging it is so incredibly dangerous. A napkin sketch doesn't calculate airflow dynamics or aerodynamic lift. It just draws a triangle on top of a square.
So what does this all mean? We have established that there is an overwhelming amount of complex physics, fluid dynamics, and load-bearing math required here.
It is a lot to take in.
We're fighting frost, heave in the soil, aerodynamic lift from the wind, and internal condensation. To survive all of this, we clearly need absolute precision. But when you lay it out like that, it sounds incredibly daunting for an average person.
It does.
How does a normal weekend warrior process all this physics without their brain just melting?
This raises an important question, which is, how do you make complex engineering accessible to the masses?
Exactly.
And the answer really lies in removing the cognitive load. When you don't have to guess the math, you don't have to stress about the outcome.
Let's look at the methodology of the source material we are analyzing today, Ryan's woodshed plans.
A huge resource.
Yeah, the resource claims to offer over 12,000 different shed designs, which is just a massive catalog. But looking at it objectively, the actual educational takeaway here isn't the sheer volume of designs, is it?
No, not at all.
It's their heavy reliance on 3D CAD drawings and these hyper-detailed exhaustive materials lists.
The materials list is perhaps the most powerful tool in any structural project. It entirely shifts the burden from the builder's memory to the paperwork.
It also avoids the absolute worst part of any DIY project, the dreaded mid-project hardware store run.
The absolute worst.
Right. I think everyone listening knows that soul-crushing frustration of making your fourth trip to the home improvement store in a single day.
Oh, standing in line with one tiny item.
Yes, because you realize you need one more specific structural hinge, or you miscalculated the concrete for the piers, or you're short exactly 3 2x4s. It completely ruins your momentum.
It drains your budget, it wastes precious hours of daylight, and it totally kills your enthusiasm for the project.
So true.
A meticulously drafted materials list prevents that entirely. Instead of you estimating how much wood a 10x12 structure might need, the plans specify the exact lumber dimensions down to the inch.
No more guessing.
Right.
Yeah.
They calculate the precise square footage of sheet goods, the specific gauge of the roofing supplies, the exact count of fasteners, hardware, and concrete bags required. You execute one purchasing trip. You buy exactly what you need once. It eliminates waste and budget overruns before the very first cut is even made.
And it sounds like this highly structured approach tackles something much deeper than just, inventory management. The source suggests that the biggest barrier to completing these projects isn't actually a lack of physical skill with a saw.
No, the skill can be learned.
Right. The biggest barrier is a lack of confidence.
It's the psychology of uncertainty. And uncertainty breeds paralysis.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you are building from a mental image or just a rough sketch, you're constantly second-guessing yourself. Every single time you make a cut, you wonder, is this measurement correct? Will this beam actually support the snow load next winter? Did I forget a structural header over the door?
That sounds exhausting.
It is. That persistent anxiety makes the entire construction process a miserable, exhausting experience. It is exactly why half-finished sheds sit rotting in backyards across the entire country.
But with a detailed plan, utilizing those 3D CAD drawings, you can visually understand how pieces intersect before you even pick up a tool.
Exactly. You just follow the sequential steps.
You are essentially outsourcing the anxiety to the engineer who drew the plans.
That's a great way to put it. By providing a structured, step-by-step approach, absolute beginners are empowered to complete complex, weather-resistant structures that they would have otherwise avoided out of pure fear.
You don't have to invent the wheel.
No, you just have to follow the instructions for assembling it.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. We started today by talking about the appeal of spontaneous creativity, but it turns out the real freedom comes from having a flawless blueprint.
Without a doubt.
Planning today prevents costly, compounding repairs tomorrow. The strongest structures aren't built by luck or intuition. They are built through careful, methodical preparation.
Absolutely.
When the foundation manages the soil, the framing redirects gravity, the roof fights off aerodynamic lift, and the weatherproofing manages moisture, you get a structure that remains functional and safe for decades.
Guesswork might seem faster on a Saturday morning, but I promise you it is a guaranteed way to create a very expensive headache down the road. Investing just a little time in detailed planning is simply one of the smartest, most cost-effective decisions you can make.
And honestly, for everyone listening, even if you aren't picking up a hammer today, the underlying principle here applies to almost any complex project in your life.
It really does.
Guesswork creates stress, while detailed preparation buys you absolute peace of mind.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've just explored how meticulous planning, 3D visualizations, and precise materials lists can transform a complete novice into someone fully capable of building a complex, structurally sound building.
Right.
So how might applying this exact level of structural microplanning transform other chaotic, figure-it-out-as-we-go areas of your life?
Oh, that's interesting.
Imagine taking this precise, step-by-step blueprint approach to managing your household finances or executing a major career pivot. If you eliminate the guesswork and map out every structural element of your goals beforehand, what could you confidently build?
That is a phenomenal question to chew on. Sometimes we really are just navigating our biggest life decisions like we're sketching a building on a napkin, just waiting for that spontaneous burst of inspiration to somehow save us.
And usually it doesn't.
Right. But maybe what we really need is just a better blueprint. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.